The NFL sees a legend, the GOAT, officially retires on Tuesday, and it leaves the Buccaneers with a gaping hole at the quarterback position. I am joined by WTSP 10 Tampa Bay's Evan Closky. We're going to give our reactions to Tom Brady retiring, and we're going to dive into the next quarterback in our positional series. In the immortal words of Tom Brady, let's go.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome back to the Locked On Bucs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or first watch every day, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. I'm James Yarko, joined as I always am on Wednesdays, as long as, recording day doesn't get cursed like it has been so often recently, by 10 Tampa Bay's Evan Closky. You can check out everything I'm doing over at BucsNation.com. Make sure you follow along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarko_Bucs, at eCloskyWTSP, and at Bucs_Nation. Shout out to David Harrison working down in Mobile with some of the Locked On podcast folks, working hard, looking
like a dog,
looking at quarterbacks. Evan Closky, because it is done, it is official. Tom Brady on Tuesday announced his retirement via Instagram, then later shared more on Twitter. And Locked On Bucs, of course, we are going to post a tweet, this one coming from David, saying 22 years, but the last two were the best. Tom Brady calling it a career. The quarterback search is on in Tampa Bay. Tom Brady saying, I have always believed the sport of football is an all-in proposition. If 100% competitive commitment isn't there, you won't succeed, and success is what I love so much about our game. There is a physical, mental, and emotional challenge every single day that has always allowed me to maximize my highest potential, and I have tried my very best these past 22 years. There are no shortcuts to success on the field or in life. This is difficult for me to write, but here it goes. I am not going to make that competitive commitment anymore. I have loved my NFL career, and now it is time to focus my time and energy on other things that require my attention. My playing career has been such a thrilling ride and far beyond my imagination and full of ups and downs. When you're in it every day, you really don't think about any kind of ending. As I sit here now, however, I think of all the great players and coaches I was privileged to play with and against. The competition was fierce and deep, just how we like it. But the friendships and relationships are just as fierce and deep. I will remember and cherish these memories and revisit them often. I feel like the luckiest person in the world. Evan Closky,
I got to say this. He did not use the word retire.
He did not use the word retire.
The door is slightly ajar.
Don't give me hope.gif.
I don't know. I'm not saying this year. I'm talking about our man, spent a year out of the game, has the itch again, where he wants to make that commitment.
I think at 45, getting that itch again, you can't do it. You can't do it.
The man is bionic. All right.
He
whatever
is.
You have in your mind about health and fitness, he supersedes it. So I'm just saying.
Now,
there's rational thought, and then there's Tom Brady as quarterback, and then all rational thought leaves.
I've come to terms. Tom Brady is done. I actually had a friend message me, and he goes, I feel bad. You've now had to go through Tom Brady retiring twice in a span of like 4 days.
It's so funny, the song and dance of it all.
Right?
Like Saturday, he had to go out of his way to make sure he made, call up Jason Light, call up BA. Hey, I have not made a decision. Just to miraculously come to that conclusion 72 hours later.
Last night,
the thunder shouldn't have been stolen from him, and it's just the nature of the beast that naturally, when this information comes out, it's going to be leaked and it's going to be told, because that's what you're supposed to do as a reporter. When you have information, you say it. Brady's somebody who likes to control everything and control as much as he can. This was something that he could not, because other people naturally had to know about it.
Yeah. Yep, that is 100% true. But Evan, looking back on the last 2 years, let's look back at the last 2 years, and then we can kind of look back uh, briefly on a 22-year career. But let's say outside of the Super Bowl, obviously the Super Bowl is going to stand out because he came in and he won one in his first year with the team. But what stands out the most to you about Tom Brady's tenure as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer?
There's a couple of things. One, the ability for this franchise to find ways to win when they don't have their A+ stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the longest time with the Buccaneers, right, they'd have good teams and they just would screw it up at some point, or they wouldn't finish a game, and they were different. This was a team that could be down. We saw they almost mounted one of the more remarkable comebacks in playoff history. It would have been a top 6 comeback ever. Because only 5 other times have there been 24 or more points one comes back from. It's just they always, like, when Tom Brady was there, you always felt like there was a chance, and no matter how grim it looked, there was always a chance. And there are just a lot of fourth quarter comebacks, or just other moments in a game where things could have went sideways. That Jets game always comes to mind because of the Antonio Brown stuff. So not only were they facing adversity on the field, but then off the field, and the guy drives down and just completely snags that victory to completely change the narrative of that contest. I think about the Saints winning the playoffs last year, sort of this moment where the Saints have had their number and continue to still do. But in that game, in that moment, he was a steady force and somebody who can help them get over the hump. The Scotty Miller pass, the Bills game this year. The Bills game was so much fun. Awful second half, but just, that moment hitting 700. We even had the chuckles over, his exchange with getting his 600th ball and the Mike Evans situation. But you know what? You're gonna miss his presence because he was so respected, and he earned that respect. He didn't come in as Tom Brady and say, "I'm Tom Brady, do what I say." Everyone from the Mike Evans to the Cyril Graysons. They adore this guy, and that's not coach speak. You can usually sniff out the people who aren't too fond of their teammates, or they just ignore them, or they won't necessarily address things in a certain way. But he came here, and as Mike Evans said after the Eagles win, he knew that he was going to change the franchise immediately when walking in, and he did that and then some. Like, you had the expectations, and he kind of exceeded them. I know that 2 Super Bowls, I think, would have been amazing in the penultimate, but he did an unbelievable stretch for a franchise that has struggled mightily throughout its history.
Yeah, and you go back and you think, if Chris Godwin doesn't get hurt, maybe they complete that comeback against the Rams. And we're not talking about Brady retiring. We're talking about his 11th Super Bowl appearance coming up in 2 weeks. You never know.
If the Buccaneers win again, if they would have won again this year, I think he would have came back to try to do a three-peat, because that would have been a challenge, because nobody's ever done that before. I think once that was off the table, I think there just was nothing. There was nothing to grasp onto that would have forced him on the field to compete. Like, he's done it all, and he's 44, and he just threw for the most passing yards and the most touchdowns in the league. The other thing that he would be reaching for is like 300 career wins, but he still needs 2 more years to do that, and he doesn't want to do 2 more years. So right. It was, it just. I do believe that if they would have won again, he would have been back, and that would have been the only way to keep him back, because there would have been that carrot at the end of the stick. But Godwin going down, Antonio Brown in that whole situation, the litany of other injuries, it just wasn't the Bucs year. And even in a year where everything was working against them, they still were 3 wins away from a Super Bowl win.
Yeah, and tied for the best record in the NFL, and
look, I think they're the most wins ever in franchise history.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I'm going to take away from it is it's more of a personal thing, and I know we're running a little bit long in this segment, but growing up as a kid, my dad tried so hard to get tickets to take me to go see Michael Jordan, whether it was against the Cavs or the Pacers. He tried so hard to get me to one of those games to go see Michael Jordan, because there was only ever one. There was only ever going to be one. So getting to share a moment with my son this year, getting to go watch Tom Brady play, means the world to me. And I never would have done that if it wasn't for him playing for the Buccaneers. So in spite of the incredible moments on the field and the Super Bowl and everything, that is the moment of Tom Brady that I cherish the absolute most. And I'm sure there's tons of stories like that throughout all of Buccaneers fandom. People posting today, I was there for Tom Brady's last football game. Jalen Ramsey tweeting out, Tom Brady's last touchdown pass was against me. Guys reveling in a failure because that's the last we've seen of the greatest to ever do it. And there's never going to be another Tom Brady, and it's going to be impossible to look for one. People wanted to crown Kobe Bryant the next Michael Jordan, and then LeBron James the next Michael Jordan. It's going to be impossible for someone to go on the kind of runs that Tom Brady did, just because he did it for so long and winning Super Bowls in 3 different decades, and having you break his career down to 3 different decades, and it's 3 different Hall of Fame careers. It's absolutely insane. And real quick, if I remember correctly, the first Super Bowl that Tom Brady played in against the St. Louis Rams in the Greatest Show on Turf, I'm pretty sure the halftime show of that was NSYNC, Britney Spears, Nelly, and Aerosmith. That's how long this dude has been in the league.
By the way,
NSYNC.
Let's say that a rookie that came in gets to exhaust their entire career, right? They could be 16 years, a 16-year career if he came in as a rookie. Tom Brady could be 60 years old, and there's a connection to him on the field with somebody who's playing in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. That's insane. Crazy. That's nuts.
It's crazy, but we do have to move on. We are going to continue our look behind door number 2 coming up in just a moment. And look, there's less football being played, especially by Tom Brady, but betonline.net has way more odds and info for this playoff season, from scores, totals, player performance props, to where to find the next fired coach and where he's going to land. BetOnline is the number 1 spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And it's not just football. BetOnline.net's basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC odds coverage is the absolute best in the business, from sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games. BetOnline is your number 1 online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. Segment 2 here of the Locked On Bucs podcast, and thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen every day. The Peacock and Williamson NFL Show podcast is going on the road to Los Angeles for Super Week. Follow the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show today to get the most comprehensive coverage of the big game. It is also free and available on all platforms. Evan, let's go ahead and dive into door number 2. And according to our friends from BetOnline, the guy who has the highest odds of representing the Buccaneers to be the guy to take that first snap week 1 under center, we're going to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. David talked about him a little bit on Monday's episode. We're going to dive in just a little bit more. And like I did with Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson on yesterday's episode, let's take a look back at how we got here. How is Jimmy G a potential candidate to play quarterback for the Buccaneers? He was traded from the New England Patriots to the San Francisco 49ers in 2017 for a 2018 second-round pick, made it to Super Bowl 54, where he overthrew what was probably a game-winning touchdown by about 5 yards, losing to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Then, following a 6-10 season in 2020, John Lynch and the San Francisco 49ers trade up to number 3 with the Miami Dolphins, giving up first-round picks in 2021, 2022, 2023, plus a 2021 third-round draft pick to take quarterback Trey Lance. How does Jimmy Garoppolo respond? Just by making the playoffs, knocking the Packers out in the divisional round in Lambeau Field, and coming up just a little bit short against the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC Championship. So the 49ers, they're moving on from a guy who has taken them to a Super Bowl, made it to the NFC Championship for the second time in 3 years, all in favor of Trey Lance. So tell me, Evan, why does Jimmy Garoppolo work in Tampa Bay?
All right, the first thing that everyone's going to say is, "Oh no, please no!"
There's a lot of that.
I understand that, all right, and I just want people to remember there aren't any Tom Brady's out there.
No.
And, as you did in your episode with Rodgers and Wilson, it gets complicated when you got to talk about the salary cap. We can all talk in black and white terms and say, get this guy, get that guy. It's nuanced, all right? So 2022 naturally is going to present a lot of options that say, oh, no, not this guy, all right? That is 2022 quarterback. So I need you in your opinions out there, the way that you view these players, understand that I see you, I hear you, I probably agree with you, but your expectations have to be significantly lowered. And this is why I'm on the Jimmy G train. Thank you. That's a sandwich. That's why. This is why I'm on the Jimmy assist from Ben. This is why I'm on the Jimmy G train. All right. First and foremost, the Bucs have a great nucleus. They have a great core group of guys. I think that they will figure something out with Chris Godwin. So in doing so, with that core, and with another draft class, and then on top of that, another draft class in 2023, you have now built a solid foundation for a quarterback to come in 2023. So I think we're going to have this discussion again in a year. Most importantly, the NFC South stinks. So I still think even in a quote-unquote rebuilding process, the Bucs could still win this division. They could still go back to the playoffs. And Jimmy Garoppolo, with all of his flaws, he's still a winner. 33-14 NFL career record. Okay. Yeah. The guy has played in a Super Bowl. He has major upsets in the playoffs as well. The number one thing against Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, is you understand that in the game at some point, he's going to throw just a ridiculously dumb interception. Luckily for the Buccaneers, they have a tremendous offensive line. So you would hope that you would limit his dumb decisions because you have some time built in for him. He's somebody that comes from the Brady camp. He played underneath Brady, learned from Brady. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel as far as a philosophy goes. A lot of things that he's coming in with probably has some knowledge with. Kyle Trask understands that as well. So I think there's a lot of good reasons to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo because I think he's consistent enough to get you to where you want to go. I don't know if he's good enough to elevate players, but I think the Bucs have enough good players around them to make it okay and understand that, yeah, they're probably not going to be Super Bowl bound, but Jimmy G has been there before. So I can't say that he's not a Super Bowl caliber quarterback because he's been to the Super Bowl. And as you mentioned, if he makes one good throw, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And on top of that, he's going to be cheap. You mentioned it off the top of the show. The Niners and him, they're done. They're going Trey Lance, right? We know that. So what is it going to cost the Bucs? It's going to cost a salary cap. That's it. It's not going to cost him a big pick. It's not going to cost him a second rounder or even a third rounder. I probably assume like a fourth rounder gets it done. I mean, it's a 1-year deal, and you're taking a problem off of their hands. In fourth round, I think would actually be great for the Niners. If they got a fourth rounder, I think that's extracting tremendous value for him because he's a lame duck. Everyone knows it. They got no power in a trade. They just want him to go so that, and not to mention the Niners can then go to Jimmy G. Hey, we're sending you to Tampa. It's a great situation for you, So don't hate us. We're taking good care of you. So yeah, I'm a little bit. I understand the pushback on Jimmy G because I understand the tape, but I'm a little bit confused as to why, if you're looking at the long-term view, why a 1-year deal with Jimmy G isn't arguably the best move for the Bucs.
Well, and before we started recording, it was reported that Jimmy G's reps and the 49ers are working to find a trade partner. So we do know this relationship is over. It's Trey Lance for the 49ers. Jimmy G is on the market. We are going to get into a little bit more as far as compensation and maybe why it doesn't work here in just a moment. But of course, Evan, you wouldn't need that sandwich if you had packed yourself a Built Bar.
You're
because
right.
Built Bars are the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar, and they make it easy to stick to your resolution of getting healthy because it tastes so good that you actually want to eat them. Unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky, waxy, taste like a chemical spill, you want to eat healthy, but it gets boring. So you're sitting there looking like, where's my cheat candy? No, forget that. Stash up on Built Bars. They're covered in 100% real chocolate, with most of them containing 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. There's tons of flavors to choose from: coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and Built is always coming out with new limited time flavors, so you have to check out built.com often to see what's new. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15. You're going to get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Wrapping things up here on a WTSP Wednesday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. James Yarko, Evan Closky on Twitter at JYarko_Bucs, at eClosky, WTSP. Why doesn't Jimmy Garoppolo to Tampa work? My biggest concern, before I kick it over to you, Evan, is you are entering into an offense that is an air raid offense. And we have seen what happens when you put a quarterback that is prone to very, very stupid mistakes into an offense that is predicated on chucking the ball 40 times a game, especially with big questions at the running back position, because you have no Leonard Fournette, you have no Ronald Jones, you have no Gio Bernard, you have Keyshawn Vaughn. So there's another position that needs to be addressed. Can you lean on Keyshawn Vaughn to run the ball 25 times in a game? I think not. So putting the game on the shoulders of Jimmy Garoppolo, the injured shoulder of Jimmy Garoppolo, could be a very risky and dangerous proposition. That said, you brought up the fact that the offensive line in Tampa is a little bit better than the one in San Francisco. They might give him a little bit more time, make a little bit smarter decisions, not put the ball in such danger. I don't even blame him for the interception at the end of the NFC Championship. That was a desperation throw in a desperation moment because the sack was going to end the game anyway. So, he chucked and prayed and hoped that something magical happened. It didn't work out. So I don't put that on Jimmy G at all. He had no choice. But you also take a look at a Buccaneers offensive line that could lose Ryan Jensen, could lose Alex Kappa. It may not be as formidable as it was the last 2 years. But Evan, you tell me, why don't you think Jimmy G would work in Tampa Bay?
I think exactly what you mentioned. I mean, he wouldn't work because it's a pass-first offense. He is not really a pass-heavy. He's not a guy that's going to chuck up 5,000 yards like Brady did, right? He's more of a game manager type. In San Francisco, it was very run first. The run is going to help the passing. And Shanahan had Debo and, Mitchell and Mostert and whoever the heck is able to stay healthy there, because I feel like the Niners always have a running back injured. But that would be a big concern, is that Jimmy G has to take a lot of pressure in this offense where he's never really had to take that responsibility before. Totally understand that. Of course, his interceptions in big pivotal moments and awkward spots. He just has one or two WTF plays a game where it's like, I don't know what you were thinking there. But beyond that, he's flawed in this offense. I wish, we had another choice. I mean, Jameis Winston is kind of the gunslinger that you would think in this offense, but we've already seen that tale before. So I think that watching this draft, Jason Light build around the offense. I'm sure they'll make an offensive line pick because you always kind of have to, but they'll for sure draft some running back. And I think it's actually a really deep running back class. I think there's a lot of value to be had. They do not have to get a Breece Hall in the first round or the second round, or a Kenneth Walker. They can wait, like a Max Borghi or a Sincere McCormick. Like there's some talent there in the back end. And then also they'll probably bring in another wide receiver. The line is going to be good next year. Stinney will move in a guard. Hainsey will move at center. I'm not too worried because you got Wirfs and Donovan Smith along with Marpet. I mean, those are Pro Bowl caliber people. So they got a draft class to help them out a little bit. So I would have to look at the financials and see what if that would mess up the equation, and if they really need to like cut back to make sure they can add some people, then I'm sure in another episode you can talk about just going down with the ship with Kyle Trask and screw it. If we get, you just throw away a year, get a great draft pick, and 2023 get a quarterback in free agency, bing, bang, boom, and you're right back to it. That's a worst case scenario. Trask could be legit too. So
there you go.
Tell Ben to calm down.
He's a Gator. He's got to protect his boy.
Yeah, I know that's part of the problem. Okay, so Evan, you brought up in the last segment what it could cost the Bucs in terms of compensation, and I think you're 100% right. I think you're looking at potentially being able to land Jimmy Garoppolo for a day 3 pick, a higher day 3 pick, but considering that the Bucs are drafting at 27, maybe it would take that third rounder to get the job done. But you're not spending what it would cost on an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson plus the premium you would have to pay because those teams are in the NFC. Now, yeah, San Francisco is also in the NFC, but they've already made it clear they're moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. They have no leverage at this point. So you can get him for a later day 2, possibly a day 3 pick. Here's the sticking point. If they make this deal for Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think it's a 1-year commitment because in Jason Light and his crew, they work some incredible magic with the salary cap. According to Over the Cap, and that's what I'm going off of right now, the Buccaneers are sitting at just under $7 million in cap space with 46 players under contract. We know Godwin needs to get paid. I'm sure they're hoping that Leonard Fournette comes back. Jason Light said that he doesn't think Brady's retirement is, hand in hand with whether or not Gronk could potentially return, because Gronk has made it very clear that he enjoys being part of the Buccaneers franchise. And if he wants to continue playing, it makes sense for him to continue to be there. That could be a huge boost. Jimmy Garoppolo's contract has 1 year left at $26.9 million. So I think if they make this deal, they're going to have to do an extension and some restructuring. It might only be a 1-year extension, could be a 2-year extension. But I think if they make a move for Jimmy Garoppolo, they're going to commit to him for beyond just the 2022 season.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get a little complicated with the cap. It's going to be a really tough year, which is a very good point that this might be a year to just kind of figure out the cap situation and, just get by, sign Godwin, take care of Fournette, try to build some people around the quarterback position and hope for the best. But yeah, that they'll have to get creative. I'm assuming that Tom Brady will be on the roster through June. So at least that he's not attracting all the dead money that the Bucs can do what the Saints did and then just wait after that date and put him on the retired IR, whatever the heck that list is. But there is some cap manipulation there so that they don't have to get completely flummoxed by that dead money that's going to come with Brady. So, the cap stuff, I trust the Bucs and their hive to figure out how to manipulate that, because the salary cap is always malleable. You can always figure it out. And of course, void years, whatever you want to do,
It's Fugazi.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist.
And remember, the salary cap is going to be going up. So, the Bucs push some money into the future, which of course is going to hurt them a little bit later. That's money they don't have that other people do have. But the cap will be going up to at least mitigate some of those issues in the short term.
Yeah, well, and I think if they place Brady on the retired list post June 1st, you're looking at only $8 million in dead cap and you get about 12 million in cap savings, where if it's before June 1st, it's 32 million in dead cap. So yeah, like you said, there's manipulations. You can work some things. We saw plenty of that last year. We've seen the Saints do it for a decade, and eventually you have to pay the piper, and that's probably why Sean Payton took his ball and ran home,
Yeah.
is because eventually you do have to pay up, and you do have to suffer the consequences of that. But the core is so good, and there's still so much talent on this team and championship pedigrees that you want to maximize this window. Can they maximize it with Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know, but to me, it seems like Garoppolo is the most likely of the outside candidates to come in and be the quarterback. But rest of this week, I am going to continue to talk about a few others. I'm going to talk about my personal favorite, who I think can be traded for and for an affordable price. That's Derek Carr. We're also going to get into the Deshaun Watson conversation. Well, I'm going to talk to myself about Deshaun Watson, but we're going to talk about that later on this week. And you guys have been great about sending in the voicemails. Ben, calm down, sir.
Ben is dying.
Ben is
Ben is he's also retiring like Brady.
Yeah, well, different reasons. You guys have been great with the voicemails. I will be getting to those throughout the rest of the week. Didn't have time on this one. Evan and I had basically a show and a half to try to cram into one show. So I will get to your voicemails. I'm sure you all have plenty to say about Tom Brady. Evan, let everybody know what's going on with you now. The season of the Blitz is over.
It's
We're gonna
over
have to wait until next year to be able to do that. It was a pleasure joining you guys for the final 2 episodes, and I 100% thought Schefter was going to torpedo one of our segments there on Saturday. But let everybody know what you have going on moving forward about the Bucs, and we got a lot of Lightning fans. What do we have going on with the Lightning over there too?
Yeah, just always remember, follow me at Closky WTSP on Twitter, 10tampabay.com, our free mobile app, all that information. I know the season's over with the Bucs, but the offseason has just begun, and now this Brady news makes the offseason really important. Last offseason, boring. We had nothing to report. It was like everyone's coming back.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you at training camp. Not this year. This is going to be a fun ride, fun in the sense that things are going to change, things are going to be moving, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. So you know the sources to go to. I appreciate you guys, allowing me to come on the podcast and have some fun and talk with you guys about the Bucs. It was a great first season. Feel lucky that I was able to watch Tom Brady and cover him for a year before he head off into the sunset. I wish I would have been here for the Super Bowl part of it, but whatever, time to create a new one. And we'll continue to plug out, Bucs news because it's not going to go to sleep. So, combine in March, draft in April, free agency in March. So there's a lot coming up.
Yeah, and you're going to continue to stick with us as we dive through our positional series each week. We take a look at some holes that need to be filled on this roster and where the Buccaneers can look to try to get that job done. So looking forward to continuing WTSP Wednesdays into the offseason here. We thank all of you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or watch of the day, but now you make your second listen. Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It is free and available on all platforms. Check out everything I'm doing over at BucsNation.com. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarko_Bucs, at DHarrison82, at eClosky WTSP, and at Bucs_Nation. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, be good to one another. Thank you, Tom. And we thank you so much for joining us right here at Locked On Bucs.